All right, my friends, we are reviewing direct and inverse variations for our test. So there are two types of variations we talked about, direct and inverse variations. So what are each? A direct variation is a constant ratio, and that ratio is y over x. An inverse variation, on the other hand, has a constant variation, and the way that we find that variation is by doing y times x. Direct variations are kind of similar to slope, whereas inverse variations are very different from slope. All right, so the equation form, this is something you're going to have memorized. The equation form of a direct variation, that is y equals k times x. Whereas the equation form of an inverse variation is y equals k divided by x. Some examples we have here, keep in mind direct variations go up at the same time, or they both go down at the same time. So some examples would be things like y equals 3x. Maybe it was a fraction of like 3/5 x, or maybe it was negative x. Inverse variations, on the other hand, one goes up while the other goes down. And the way we know that is the equation would be some number, like maybe it's 20 divided by x. We could do a negative, so it might be -4 divided by x. Or it could just be a -1 divided by x. All right, so our graphs, we have two rules for each. First rule is that direct variations are a straight line, and they go through 0, 0. So it could be something like this. Let's make sure I go through 0, 0 there. There we go. They also could be a negative line, something like that, that goes through 0, 0. The direct variations, on the other hand, are curved lines, not straight, and they do not go through 0, 0. That's the two rules. They're the opposite. So they're that L shape like that and like that. If they look like anything else, they are neither a direct or an inverse variation. All right, so if we were going to test for them, we would use our constant of variation, and we would say y divided by x. So for instance, if I got multiple pairs, multiple points, you could do the y value divided by the x value. For a direct variation, the way we find k is we multiply y times x. All right, for a direct variation, I want you to think of that word proportional, because these are proportional. They might say the word direct, or they might say the word proportional. We use the proportion y divided by x is equal to y divided by x. So when we write this ordered pair, we would take the y value of -12, and we would divide it by 8, set it equal to the other y value divided by x, so y over 20. That's when we cross multiply, and we're going to do -12 times 20 and 8 times y. It doesn't matter which order you put it in, it's totally up to you which one you do first, but -12 times 20 gives us -240. 8 times y simplifies to 8y, and we're going to divide by 8 and get y equals -3. When we do the inverse variation, on the other hand, think about that as your y times x is equal to your y times x. So our y value is 4 times x. We would write 4x. Our y value times x would be -6 times -9. We can multiply and multiply, and we get 4x is equal to 54. And then last, we would divide both sides by 4 and get x equals 13.5. You can just leave that one as a decimal since I didn't give you any fractions in the original problem. Don't forget, if you need to, you can go back and rewatch any part of this video, but this is a great review for that test that we have in our next bell.